At the ancient college of San Ildefonso, masterworks of Mayan civilization take residence to bring together time and space with an original and unprecedented character within the cultural panorama of our ancient peoples. Memory evokes the words that spring from the Mayan soul. Next to the powerful sun of the solstice, the precious twins that conform unity begat life. Light spreads through earth, sky, and above the surface of the sea. We are at the edge of the tropical forest, at the edge of the well by the rock, waiting for the appearance of the beautiful smoking star that shines over the forest. This is the first exhibition on Mayan civilization that encompasses practically all of its geographical expanse, all of its historical eras, and the rich diversity of the peoples that forged it. It constitutes a testimonial that brings us close to the past, providing an encounter with the splendor of the ancient Mayas. The historical development of the Mayas in pre-Hispanic time covers almost 3,400 years, up until the conquest and gradual subjugation to the Spanish crown in the 16th and 17th centuries. The Mayan territory lies in a complex area of the Mexican Southwest and spreads into Central America. The different geographical zones within the area played a key role in the growth and flourishment of this civilization. The Mayas were able to create a vigorous plastic language, exuberant and diversified, in which to express their beliefs, their concepts of nature, the cosmos and the gods, their ideas of themselves and their fellow men. The chants say, "We shall go back to the earth, under the plume of the small hummingbird, or beneath the skin of the beautiful stag, or of the jaguar." The extraordinary environment of the Mayan territory influenced artistic creation and religion. The forces of nature, the valleys and mountains all helped to inspire their ideas about the origin and structure of the cosmos, as well as the creation of sacred spaces in the hearts of their cities. If there is joy amongst the animals, why do not our hearts rejoice? If they at dawn are indeed beautiful, only chants, only games go through their thoughts. The Mayan region has extraordinary wealth and geographical variety. The overwhelming presence of nature was preserved in stone and clay by skilled, creative, and inspired hands. Animals, plants, and stones were to them manifestations of divine forces linked to mankind by the possession of spirit and will. The blood of the tapir was blended with corn to create man. Physical and metaphysical movement is associated to monkeys. Dogs guide death through the underworld. The sovereign forces of the earth are begotten by the jaguar. The alligator is the image of the earth. It all reveals the exceptional link of man with nature, a relationship based on respect and harmony, and an awareness of cosmic unity. Animals possess, inasmuch as they are creatures, a divine character, its function integrated to rites such as frogs announcing the rain in order to make the corn grow. The wide variety of animal life in the region is also amazing. Most notable examples are the jaguar, the quetzal, and the rattlesnake, which were all symbols of things sacred. The sacred text of Popol Vuh reads, "Many towns were founded one by one, and the different branches of the tribes gathered along the roads. Thus they multiplied, here over the mountains, and this was the place of their cities." The sacred character of nature was symbolically recreated in their cities. The Mayas planned them in harmony with the physical spaces of their geography and in accordance to the untangible space of divine nature. The pyramids and temples, built on top of hills, as well as their palaces, were decorated with religious symbols. Great serpents ran along staircases, winding their way around facades or holding roofs and porticos, impregnating the buildings with sacred energy. The Mayan cities are characterized by the exactness of their ornamental design and the correct handling of the stones, geometry applied to architecture, and detail in ornament, visual equilibrium between straight lines and the organic forms of the physical world. Huge stucco figureheads decorated the entrance to temples, great caverns that allowed for the passage of man to the underworld or the celestial regions. The expressive wealth of the Mayas is evident in the great diversity of styles that gave their cities a distinctive personality. This is the Queen of Uxmal. She stands as an example of sculpture integrated into buildings and temples. A head that emerges from the jaws of the serpent, forming part of the decoration of the oracle's pyramid. In important Mayan cities, power was exercised by the military, economic, and religious hierarchy. The rulers were immortalized in stone, erected as columns, populating the urban jungle as cosmic trees. The nobility resided in stone palaces with multiple rooms, sometimes distributed around internal plazas. Both religious and secular buildings were covered by stucco and decorated with relief work or multicolored paintings. The rulers and ancestors were also represented with notable realism in relief works of stucco and stone, in panels and in columns. The Mayas also rebuilt the structure of the cosmos. The cross symbolized a crossroad, the 4 points of the compass, which upon making contact formed a guiding center, the place of reunion between man, heaven, and the underworld. The city was the center, where the Mayas would pay tribute to an indivisible universe, wherein the elements of nature lived in harmony with mankind. Mayan society was built on the relationship of forces that contributed to the development of collective welfare. In spite of limited social mobility, each individual was able to develop his own potential according to an astrological destiny, and thus become an expert farmer, a brave warrior, an able administrator, a shrewd businessman, or a great ruler. Put on your beautiful robes. The day of rejoicing has come. Comb your disheveled hair, and wear your finest clothes and shoes, and let jewelry adorn your ears. These ceramic figurines were found on the island of Jaina in the Mexican state of Campeche. They show a varied and lively range of different social activities. The characters are depicted carrying out daily activities, dressed and ornamented with fine jewelry according to their differing social ranks. We have brought the incense, this turkey as an offering, new shoes, even the laces that we use to tie our hair are impregnated with ointment, as well as our finest musical instruments. All of the skilled craftsmanship of the Mayas was used to execute a perfect record of their lives. The human portraits that they achieved registered the passing of time and the ensuing cycles of growth and decay of human life, all in full awareness of the cycle of the life and death renewal. At the peak of the Mayan social pyramid, we find the Ahau, the Almighty Lord. This ruler of Tonina is displaying the regalia of his station and the corresponding attributes of power. The ceremonial scepter which he holds represents a two-headed serpent, symbolic of sacred energy. War had a triple significance in Mayan culture: political, since it allowed for the conquest of territories; economic, as it led to the acquisition of tributes; and ritual, resulting from the capture of prisoners of war to be sacrificed. In conjunction with the ruler, the high priest in his god mask governed the destiny of their people. On the matter of the fate of the prisoners, the Rabbina Lachi says, "Brave, male, captive, prisoner. Yes, the heavens, yes, the earth, have delivered you to the son of my arrow, the son of my shield, to my spear, to my axe." Identified with power, the jaguar was an ambivalent deity associated with the night as well as the sun. It also represented, owing to its strength, the character of the ruling classes. Jade was the most precious material. It represented life to its fullness, the supreme Mayan ideal, considered essential in funeral attire for the great lords. Jade acted as a sort of amulet to protect the dead in their dangerous journey to Xibalbá, the place of death. At many burials, the face was covered with a mask in jade mosaic, maintaining the identity of the ruler. At the mouth, they placed a jade bead that symbolized all that they held precious and timeless, expecting these ornaments to house the immortal spirit that resided in the heart. These funeral offerings bear witness to the Mayan belief in the immortality of the soul. These high-ranking characters belonging to Copan seem to materialize in the words of the ancient chant. Wear a good headdress. Wear your decorations around your beautiful neck. Put on bracelets that encircle your arms. At the memorial of Solola, it says, "He was immediately recognized as their king and lord. They sat him in a chair and on the throne, and then bathed him with a jug." The ruler was the cosmic axis, the point of contact between the world of men and the supernatural. The position of the ruler was confirmed by marriage alliances. At a threshold in Yaxchilan, the marriage of the Lady Shok of Kalakmul to the ruler of Yaxchilan is shown. One can see her offering a war attire to him, a shield and a helmet that represents a jaguar, symbol of the supreme power amongst men. The animal mask worn over the head and the quetzal plumes that decorated the headdress symbolized the holiness of the ruler and his link to divinity. Recorded for posterity in stone, even in jade, as in this vase from Tikal, the rulers became immortalized and are bearers of messages to present-day man. They sat upon stone jaguars, thrones decorated and carved with glyphs, straw chairs that represented their social rank. Their feet often rested on the monster that represented the earth, in direct contact with the earthly gods, and from their bodies sprang corn plants and cosmic trees. Next to the political power, the ruling class also assumed religious power by means of practicing rites of expiation and ceremonies of self-sacrifice that affirmed their central role in nourishing the gods. The people of Mesoamerica developed a cyclical conception of time. The Mayas observed for generations the course of the heavenly bodies, and notwithstanding their lack of specialized instruments, were successful in calculating with extreme precision the cycles of the Sun, Moon, and Venus. In different Mayan sites, discoveries have been made of buildings and stels aligned to astronomical paths, as well as several buildings specifically designed for astronomical observation, such as the snail at Chichen Itza. Thus it was written in the sacred texts, "Because he gives his light to the earth, because he is the master of all things that are under his command, just like the smoking star, that is like the shining flower of the heavens." The scribes were sages, belonging to the higher strata of society. Their power was transforming language into literary masterworks whose guiding principle was to transcend the present and give meaning to remembrance and teaching. The Mayas developed a writing system that was the most advanced of the entire American continent. It combines phonetic signs with pictographic elements. Without a doubt, the most precious heirloom of the Mayas are the documents containing the magic of the written word. This ancient form of communication has overcome the barriers of time, space, and death. Only 3 codices from Mayan literature have been saved. This one, named Madrid, has a religious content wherein multiple deities are described, as well as a number of rituals. It has a priceless historical and humanistic value. The Mayas had a solar calendar of 365 days called Ha'ab, which ruled the events of the community. It was divided into 18 months, each 20 days long, and ending with 5 festive days, named Uayeb, during which all public activity ceased. For the first time ever in the history of humanity, the Mayas discovered the positional value of all mathematical signs and the use of 0, thus allowing for precise calculations of up to millions of years. All historical events related to power were recorded for posterity, showing the importance of human actions, which reveals a deep awareness of history. The Mayan territory forms a part of a wider cultural unit, which is called Mesoamerica, and where different people shared common characteristics. The Mayas stand out for their mathematical and astronomical knowledge. The basis for this knowledge is derived from the Olmecs, considered the founders of civilization in Mesoamerica. The Olmecs exerted a definitive influence on the succeeding cultures, as is the case with the Mayas, with whom they shared the humid jungle forests of the tropics. The influence of the great metropolis of the Central Highlands is evidenced in Mayan architecture and ceramics from places as remote as Guatemala. The presence in Mayan territory of zoomorphic hatchets and protective gear associated with the ball games practiced by the people from central Veracruz bear witness to the influence of the latter upon the Mayas towards the end of the classical period. Objects used in ritual practices imported from other regions bear witness to strong links tying them to other societies, as well as the presence of hegemonic cultures that exerted influence over vast territories throughout many centuries. Certain objects pertaining to the coast of the Gulf of Mexico and the Central Highlands during the Classical period gives evidence to exchanges with these cultures and the resulting adoption of new plastic elements. Commercial contacts with regions outside the Mesoamerican sphere of influence allowed the Mayas to obtain a great variety of figurines and golden objects from places as far away as Colombia. Many objects recovered at the sacred well of Chichen Itza indicate external influences, such as this jade plaque, which represents a human sacrifice in the style characteristic of central Mexico. Mayan culture was not an original culture. It formed part of a complex historical process of interaction among different Mesoamerican groups, which took place during the entire pre-Hispanic period. The close harmony of the Mayas with nature, to them the residence of holy beings, called for a cult of offering and the requesting permission from the divinities thought to protect animals and plants, as well as acts of expiation for spilled blood. The gods of the deer hunt were invoked and thanked for the sustenance obtained, as well as for the skin and bones with which clothes and utensils were wrought. Corn was, and still is, the cultural and economic axis of Mayan culture. It was considered a sacred matter from which man was created, and thanks to which he is a being aware of himself and of the gods to whom he is to worship. Cocoa was one of the most valued crops in Mesoamerica. It even had use as legal tender, and to the Mayas, its divine nature paved its way to become an integral part of ritual ceremonies. Ceramics also took models from nature. Among these are the voluptuous forms of squash, which together with corn, beans and chili constituted the dietary staple of the Mesoamerican people. In everyday domestic utensils, both religious and secular, the Mayas painted scenes from their everyday lives and notable events within the community. The world of the dead formed an indivisible part of daily life. Textiles were made to cover their lifeless bodies. Through their weavings, women recreated in textiles cosmic symbols, animals, plants, and the confines of the universe, which constituted the key to their spiritual world and identified each ethnic group. He comes from the four paths, in the heavenly way, where the house of the sphere lies, and is ruled by the wise Hunab-Ku, because he is the Lord of fire, water, air, and earth, Lord of this world, and of all things made by him. Man is regarded as being at the center of the universe, an axis of cosmic life. It is he that has the responsibility for feeding the gods and preserving the equilibrium of sacred forces. The link between man and nature is expressed in figures that emerge from the jaws of animals, flowers, and shells. Priests suffer transformations through ritual trance, which allow them to renew spiritual life by means of metaphysical powers. The fertility rites consisted in the giving of life through the offering of feminine figurines whose hands covering the womb indicated the gestation of a new being. The ingestion of psychoactive mushrooms allowed those initiated in the practice to lift themselves above their human condition and reach a global vision of reality, coming in contact with the gods and their ancestors. The priests acted the part of the gods during these rituals and were the bearers of the messages from mankind. Before the community, they enacted the part of the invoked god and became the bearers of man's messages to their deities. They were considered awesome beings, capable of transforming themselves into jaguars, eagles, buzzards, and absorb their magical powers. Man was responsible for feeding the gods and the maintenance of the universe. Hence, he offered his blood in order to prevent the natural cycle of life from ending. The underworld of the Mayas not only presents the negative aspect of destruction and death, but also the seed of new life. The solar god emerged from the jaws of terrestrial monsters in order to illuminate the world. Musical rhythms provided a bridge for communication with the gods, allowing for requests and giving thanks. Incensaries were used during public ceremonies, and after being used, were buried under the stairs of the pyramids. Gods were represented in images created by man, and they absorbed food through stone and ceramic. This incendiary base comes from Palenque. It shows the face of a solar god from the underworld, with a bird that holds the god of corn and the figure of a deity related to fertility and the aristocracy. Some incendiaries bear representations of the face of the solar god Kinich Ahau, decorated with juxtaposed masks and celestial symbols, such as crossed sashes, serpent-like eyes, and birds. By means of the ball game, man recreated the struggle between opposite forces, the sun and the moon, night and day, celestial gods and those of the underworld. Thus, they ensured continuity. As described by the action of the player in this disc from Chincoteac, the game consisted in a fertility rite associated with war and the alternation of day and night. The ashes of the dead were placed in urns, such as these which come from Guatemala, and are decorated with images that symbolize the sun in its journey through the underworld. It expresses an idea of the star that dies and is reborn. Thus, the spirit of the dead would be reborn into another life form. The underworld, through which man walked after death, was inhabited by skulls, monsters, jaguars, and nocturnal creatures. Associated with nocturnal creatures, such as the bat, the gods of the underworld attempted to eat corn in the dark and be able to spread it over the earth as a signal of renewal. Death was represented in all material at their disposal, such as in living skulls that express change, decay, and the rotting away of physical life. The same phenomenon can be observed in miniature objects covered with shells, bones, and precious stones. The cycle of life and death was represented as an obsession, expressing the deep sense that the Mayas had for spiritual life. The firm belief in a constant cycle of birth, death, and rebirth made the Mayas zealous guardians of the order imposed by religion. The Mayan gods are lively representations and symbolic images of supernatural beings that were part of the stars in the sky, the forces of nature, plants, and animals. These gods are complex creatures that, like man, are prone to break the equilibrium of the cosmos and nature. They can stray, die, and with them, all that has the seed of life is subject to perish. Forgers of the universe, creators of the earth, the underworld, the gods are the creators of the human species. Men are the children of these gods, and were molded from corn amassed with the blood of sacrificed animals. It is written in the Popol Vuh, "It is the time for dawn to break. May those who are to feed and nourish us appear, the awakened sons, the civilized vassals. Let man appear, and with him humanity over the surface of the earth." The ancient Mayas enjoy a well-deserved fame for their works of art, their architecture, writing, science, and urban planning, carried out in a milieu so varied and full of challenges. By representing themselves, the Mayas expressed their concept of beauty, dignity, and greatness of mankind, regarded as the central axis of the universe, provider for the gods, and responsible for cosmic existence. Man is represented as ruler, with his symbols of power, sacred and political, but we also see him in his daily life and mortal condition. In their portrayal of man, the Mayas achieved great dynamics and extraordinary vitality. Their faces express spirituality, inner life, and harmony with their habitat. We may venture to say that the Mayas were a deeply humanitarian people. He has arrived in the midst of the heavens. His light shines over all things. O great sun, you provide well-being here, over the earth, to all things that are alive, because you are set to sustain this earth, where all men live.